welcome back to Author Mastery Insights. I am with an amazing author on an incredible journey, Njambi Mungai. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you here for this. What we're going to have is a fireside chat.
Thank you, Dr. Chacos. It's really good to be here.
I'm very grateful you've taken time out of your schedule. There's so much that goes on in your life, and I know to take time to have a conversation is not always an effortless process. So I am grateful. And I want to talk with you about this beautiful book, Wisdomisms. And before I go through some of the things that have been really, I guess, impactful and meaningful for me, I'd love for you to tell us the story, the journey of the creation of this book.
Oh my goodness. It is a long story, but I'll do my best. It started with me being a seeker. I began looking at an early age for a spiritual home, and it was pretty difficult, to find a religious or a religion that I could feel complete and comfortable in. So I went off on a journey for years and years, and I explored a lot of philosophies and beliefs along the way. And I stopped at one was A Course in Miracles, and I worked with a fabulous mentor for over 8 years, and that was a Christian-based philosophy. And then I found and was introduced to a Buddhist faith. It was started by Nichiren Daishonin in the 1200s, and it's called SGI, Soka Gakkai International, and it's referred as Nichiren Buddhism. So I compared the philosophies of both of these practices, and I realized that they were exactly the same. One had a Christian perspective, the other didn't, but essentially they followed the basic universal truths in life, the things like love thy neighbor, live a good life, be a good person, what goes around comes around, which is essentially karma, and the fact that everything is connected. And so, having had that prior experience, let's go back to, I guess, over 20 years ago. I'll put it that way. I was writing I guess a gratitude journal is what it is called. And it was inspired for me through Oprah Winfrey. And I would every night at the same time write in my journal the 5 things that I was grateful for that day. And before that all happened, I would just sit quietly and just get into a state where I was calm and peaceful, and allow myself to open to spirit, and I would write these little inspirations right before the things that I was grateful for, and that went on for 2 years. And at some point I felt finished. I didn't have a need to continue writing those things, so those things got put on the shelf, and I went from there. But that is essentially how I got to where I am with this at this point.
Finding your own truth, exploring belief systems, philosophies, faith, and in your own practices, documenting that journey and asking questions and utilizing a process of self-reflection. Deep healing comes from that. Deep wisdom comes from that. And as you said, you felt there was a certain level of finishing. But what I imagine, and I'm looking forward to this unfolding of this story, is there's this collection of wisdom that you have, these questions and self-reflections and statements of truth that are now they're shelved. Life still goes on though. And
Yeah.
between the shelving of those and the writing of this book, what took place there to bring the book to fruition? What was the motivation for taking those thoughts and bringing them to material form?
Well, as I said, those notes and all those things sat on the shelf for 20 years. I had a terrible time with procrastination, because if that had been the case, the book would have been written a long time ago. But I do believe that it wasn't time for the book to come out. What happened was the pandemic in 2020. And, things had stopped. My work had stopped. And my reaction was full of fear and panic and that sense of being unsettled. It was, a terrible time for everyone. And I looked at my reaction and I looked around me, and I remembered that I had this material that I'd said a long time ago that I was going to publish. And that was the impetus for me. This could be an answer to a very great need. And it's what I did. I sat around and decided, this is my time. I'm free, and the universe has set this, this gift in front of me to be able to have something that can help other people.
That's beautiful. And I think there's so much truth in that, because as you said, the world changed in a way that caused people to have doubt, uncertainty, fear. There was an inability for some people to take action, to even leave their houses and to know whether or not they would be safe. And in the presence of those doubts, those uncertainties, those fears, an ability to claim your wisdom, to find a position of strength, and then to become more bold or courageous, or be able to take action and discern, truth from falsity, which could potentially mean, overcoming fear and restoring confidence. I think the wisdom allows that to happen. And that's why when I look at, both your title and the subtitle, Wisdomisms, a daily spirit-guided approach to opening up your life to greater possibilities. And again, there's that cover and that title. And so the ability to sit in that moment, in the presence of all the things that are happening, gives that ability to say, I can sit in truth. I can lean on my faith, or find wisdom in words that allows me to not be overcome by the events of the world. I think that's a beautiful gift that you've provided here. And you did that on your own journey previously. What was it like coming back to those words and remembering those truths in the face of the challenges we've had in the last, couple of years?
It was consoling to look at, I'll tell you, I actually read a wisdomism every day myself. And there are times and days when I look at these words and I know that they were divinely inspired, because they have such an impact on me. And I know that is the process for others as well. It has to be. We are all essentially spiritual beings having a human experience. We're living in a human experience. And, that's I think the overall message that I want to share in this book. We're much more than our fears. We are, truly divine beings. And I hope that these inspirations remind the readers that, this is who we really are. So.
And I want to how would I put this? Reiterate what you just said, that I think you said that I think everybody could move into this space and benefit from it. And I want to share with everybody watching this, and again with you, absolutely it does that, because whether it's acting as a devotional for someone, or whether, as you said, a daily reader or a personal just moment of reflection. And some of the things that I love from here, and there's effortlessness in the reading. And I love that it says, today I will, because it is a statement of not only affirmation, but present time realizability. It's not, I hope to become, or I will get there. It is, truth is, today I will.
Yeah.
And I love this one. Go forth with an open heart and a loving spirit. And, to remember that and to say, okay, today I might have been in fear. I picked it up in the morning and I was stressed about the events yesterday, and I'm, going into an office meeting where there's some angst, and no, today I'm going to go forth with an open heart.
Yes.
A loving spirit. I'm going to come from it. And just, it connects you back into that divine inspiration, that connection to truth. And it's almost though, and the way I like using it is a morning and an evening read, in the sense that it sets me up for the day. I'm going to hold this thought today throughout the day for that day. And on the evening, as I read it, I reflect on how close was I to the goal, to the intention I had of holding an open heart and feeling a loving spirit course through me.
Perfect. Yes. Yes. I mean, we all have a choice, to step forward every day in faith, rather than falling back, into old habits and fears. And so, again, this is intended to remind that person who's reading it that that's the point of being in this world,
Beautiful way of doing it. And one other one, because by the way, there are just so many beautiful statements of truth that you can anchor into and that you can live. Hence, a daily reader makes it a beautiful way to begin and to carry throughout the day. And I could honestly have chosen hundreds, but I'm choosing only two, simply because, given the stress that we're under now, I'm going to ask you to reflect and share your thoughts on this one, because so many people have been through stress and, challenge and adversity, and our family lives can be turned upside down, and our career lives can be turned upside down. So when we say words like this, today I will choose to celebrate my life as it is right now. How do we then come to that statement when we may not feel that is right now a truth for us? How then, there's some beautiful statements that we want to move into the day with, and yet there are still some provocative statements that challenge our current state in the presence of a world that may do, if done correctly, unfold a better state. But for those who might say, I don't know that I can actually appreciate my life right now, it is a living hell. How then do those statements evoke change and bring about healing?
In this particular one, it is a suggestion to accept exactly where you are in that moment and rejoice in it. It doesn't matter if all of these negative things are happening at once. Those things can be overwhelming and make you fearful and make you hesitate to be the person that you are supposed to be. But this is an exercise. It's an exercise just to reflect on the dynamic presence of where you are in that moment, and to use that along with other things that you're learning along this journey in the book, just how to handle it. You don't have to choose, again, to live in that fearful state, or to take that step back, but to step forward, opening up your mind and your spirit, little by little, to get to that goal, which is just to become a happier person, and to on your own to create a more fulfilling life. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think as we start to move towards the end of this conversation, I'd love your thoughts on the title itself, because in today's world, there is a lot of knowledge out there. There's a lot of information available
Yeah.
to people, but knowledge isn't wisdom. What is your thought on wisdom, and how do we move into a space of being wisdom accessors and then wisdom keepers so that we can serve humanity from that place of wisdom?
Well, you know, I actually am opening up to one of the first pages in the book where I wrote a definition of what wisdomism is. And it's wisdomism is a word that I thought that I made up all by myself until I did a search. And I do see that the word has been used before. However, it has not been used in the context that I'm using it in. So I did make it up. but if this book, I mean, if the word were to be defined in the dictionary, it would be defined as a motivational statement or suggestion that promotes self-awareness and growth. And then I even added a second one that says it's the quality of being wise, and adherence to the practice of applying daily wisdom or inspiration to your life. So that's what a wisdomism is.
Sorry, I have to go down one other channel, one other question, and it reminds me, and that conversation there about wisdom and creating and applying this to our lives so that there is growth. And for those watching, I'm going to make a statement of a quote that I think is profound, but at the same time truly provocative in a way. And you'll have to forgive me if I don't recall whether it was Plato or Socrates. It may have been. It was one of those two, and they said the unexamined life is worth nothing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's
talking,
you know, whatever it was, 400 BC, something like that. I mean, the deep philosophy, Western philosophy comes from the teachings of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. And so that idea of examining our life and then wisdom being derived from that self-reflection and examination, it doesn't have to be in a teaching institution. It doesn't have to be through a lyceum, which is where, you know, these great thinkers had their philosophical conversations. And it doesn't have to be amongst the world's greatest minds to develop wisdom. It can be on our own, in our bedroom, under a blanket, reading a book at night sometimes to remind ourselves, okay, I can't turn the light on, but all right, today I will focus and commit to remaining open, which are two important components of the journey towards enlightenment. You hold that thought in mind. How do we examine our life so that you mentioned to have that meaning, how do we examine it in such a way as to bring meaning to our experiences, to our lives, so that there is greater fulfillment?
That's a beautiful question. I think it doesn't come easily because our minds and our psyches have been bombarded with so much negativity and so many things to have to unpack and juggle and manage. And I think that we have to train our minds to focus more on the positive things in life and how to make positive out of negative. You know, in reference to the wisdomism you just read, even it takes years to, I'll use the word, become damaged, and it takes time to get out of that mindset. And so my thought is practice. It takes practice, not only using this book, but doing other things. As I said, I wrote a gratitude journal for years. I'll even, it's something very personal. I was writing my gratitude journal at a time when the most unimaginable thing happened to me. My son at 29 years old committed suicide, and it was, the impact was incredibly horrifying, difficult, defeating, crushing. I can't use enough words to describe that. But I never stopped writing in my gratitude journal. I looked back not long ago. I think, while I was going through the process of compiling this book in 2020, and I looked at my gratitude journals on the day of his death and the days subsequent to that. And I couldn't believe myself, the things that I wrote that I was grateful for. But that is what the discipline and the training leads to. You find good in everything, after a time. And I was able to find good. I felt that my son was at peace. He did not have to suffer anymore. And that was consoling to me. I was crushed. That was my personal journey, but his was over, and I was grateful for that. So
My gratitude for sharing that vulnerability. What I would like to say in conclusion to this is, one, you have our love, and given that you've just spoken of gratitude and finding gratitude in any moment, I think it's fitting that we express gratitude as we come to the end of this conversation. And firstly, I'm grateful for you, for your book, for the message that it brings. Grateful for the timely reminder that this becomes a training for our mind to create the experiences in life that we want. So details are below where you can grab that book and use it as a training, a daily reader to focus your mind and galvanize your spirit to move in the direction that you want. And thirdly, I always use 3 gratitudes. Thank you to Jack, who is an incredible friend and human being for both of us. And
yes,
this fortuitous meeting comes as a result of the interconnectedness of this world, for which we can also be grateful because it provides community, even in times of isolation, love and support across an entire expanse. And this is just an incredible gift. And your work, Njambi, is beautiful. Your gift, profound.
well, thank you so much, Dr. Chacos. This has been a wonderful experience for me as well. And there are absolutely no accidents in life. So so this was meant to happen. It's a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you today.